Hello! In this lesson we'll discuss about how to pick a game from the multitude of apps or games available for sale. I will show you what you need to take into consideration when choosing a game. First, I want to tell you that Highway Speed, the game used in this course, was not the initial game that I chose for this course. I've made a mistake and picked a game from an unknown or new user on CodeCanyon, a user with no feedback so far. Unfortunately, 2 weeks after the course was released, the game was not available for sale anymore. The author might have stopped selling it, or most probably, the game was taken down for other reasons by CodeCanyon. So I had to pick another game and update the course. The source code of the original game was still available for me to download, but there was no support available from the seller anymore. In order for you to avoid such problems, I will discuss what do you need to look or to take into consideration when picking a game or app for reskinning. First element that you want to take into consideration is of course the price of the game or app that you decided to purchase. As you can see, the price for this game was $17 at the time that I purchased it. Compared to other mobile app source code marketplaces like Chupa Mobile, this price is very low. So, in case you are just starting with app reskinning, I suggest you to pick something from CodeCanyon. That way you will be sure that you will not invest a large amount of money in this app reskinning process. In time, as you will gain more experience in reskinning games, you can pick a more expensive game to reskin if you consider that paying a higher price for the game will make sense. Usually, games found on CodeCanyon website are as close as possible, even sometimes identical, to the ones on Chupa Mobile, but the prices are much higher on Chupa Mobile. Why risking a high amount of money for the same or almost the same game's source code? Other times, games found on Chupa Mobile are really worth their price. For example, if you decide to buy a source code for a gambling app which supports in-app purchasing and can bring you a higher revenue than a simple game that will be publishing for free and monetizing with ads, the decision on buying the source code for the gambling app could be a better one than paying for a simple casual game on CodeCanyon, even though the gambling app source code could cost as much as $500 or even $1,000. You will have to analyze the potential of the game, how much will it cost you to reskin it, maybe marketing it, and how much is going to bring you in revenue. You will have to be very careful with these estimations. I repeat, for beginning, CodeCanyon is a great place to buy source code for mobile apps. The next thing that you might want to take into consideration is the seller, or actually the feedback of the seller. In this case, I picked Neurodigital, a seller with over 2000 sales and a 4.75 feedback score, which is great. Also note, the seller or author has about 110 people that are following him, meaning that these are happy with his work and games that he sells. Then we can see some of its games that are up for selling. By clicking on Portfolio, you can see all of its items for sale, what is the price for each, how many of these were sold for each item, and what is the average rating for each item. As we can see, most of his games are rated 4 and 5 stars, meaning that this is a great seller and we can't go wrong by purchasing from it. Next we can see that he sold as many as 104 copies for some apps and not many as low as 18 for other apps. But this is not the only reputable seller on CodeCanyon. There are plenty of serious sellers which offers great support and app to reskin. Let's see some other apps available for sale. I'll select mobile and then we'll choose Android to display only the Android apps for sale. When I say apps, I'm talking about the source code for the apps. Okay, right now these are displayed ordered by date, so the latest items are displayed on top of the page. These usually don't have too many sales as these are fresh entries. But we can filter the list of the items for sale by author or seller, category, rating, sales, my favorite filter, and price. If we sort it by sales, we can see which apps are sold most on the website. The first app on the list has sold about 465 copies. By scrolling down, we can find an app sold by Neurodigital called FlappyBot. Again, I have no connection with this seller, I'm just trying to tell you to take this element into consideration when making a purchase. Always look for sellers that are offering a great support and are having a high feedback and sales. Let's click on this app and see more details about it. Again, the seller is one of the most trusted sellers on CodeCanyon on mobile category. For this game, he sold 380 copies and the buyer's feedback for this is at 4.59, which is also great. By scrolling down, we can see the date that the game was first published on the website, and again, another important aspect, we can see a last update field which holds the date that the game was updated last time. It's important to take this aspect also into consideration because a seller which frequently updates its source code is a serious one and he pushes updates to its games either with features asked from the buyers or simply in order to fix some bugs. And the last thing we look at, another important element, are the users' comments regarding the game. Here we can find questions, suggestions or even thanks from the user that have already purchased the source code and are happy with it. You can get an idea of how fast the seller is responding to the questions and if his answers are helpful or not. It's important to get through these comments and read them carefully because you could discover some bugs of the game detected by other users. You can inspire from other users' comments, see what features they want to implement or add to the game, and maybe you will add them to your game too. If enough users are requesting a specific feature, let's say they want to implement Facebook or another social network in the game, the seller might add these features for free in a following update, especially if the seller is one that it values its customers and tries to keep them happy. So why bother digging through the source code, trying to implement this functionality by yourself, when this can be done by the actual seller which knows better than anyone where he needs to make changes to the source code. And finally, as always, there is also a downside of picking the source code for your game. If you take this path and decide to pick one of the most sold source codes, you could discover later that there are many games or apps already on the marketplace that are using the same source code, so you'll have to work harder or invest more in your reskinning process in order for your game to be unique and step out of the crowd, let's say. So you have to analyze the existing marketplace for the same type of game before making a final decision, but we'll discuss more about this in another lesson. To conclude, in this lesson we covered what are the aspects that you will want to consider when picking a game for reskinning. My advice is to buy from a reputable seller which offers great support and it's always ready to help its customers. Start with a low price game until you get more experience and are ready to deal with more expensive and probably more profitable games.